What's going on, Facebook Live? Welcome to Friday Night Spotlight on Northeast Kayak Fishing TV. Thank everybody for the support we've had. Things are growing pretty well. We're getting a lot of viewers and a lot of views on YouTube. So, guys, keep it up. It's really helping me out and giving me some confidence to keep pushing this thing forward. Tonight we got Jamie Verab from New England Bassin. He started New England Bassin, and he's, I guess you would call him the president of New England Bassin. They have a bunch of different groups. We're going to get into that and ask questions and see all about it. So without further ado, what's up, Jamie?
What's going on, Just? How's everything, man?
All right, yourself?
Doing well. Nice day of school today. This whole coronavirus, I just now have a nice, relaxing 2-week off period until indefinitely. So whenever that means, maybe we'll have 4 weeks off to kick off the season in the right direction fishing wise. So
Right.
I'm excited.
I just saw a post a little while ago. The mayor of Boston has closed schools from now until April 27th.
Yeah, our April break in Hartford, I think, starts April 10th. So I can only assume that they're going to bring it all in until April vacation, which would be pretty much a month off almost.
Right.
And yeah, man, I'm excited to go fishing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Me too. Me too.
uh,
Start off by telling everybody where you're from.
Sure. So I actually grew up in Naugatuck, Connecticut. I currently reside in Prospect, Connecticut, which is centrally located roughly. I went to Naugatuck High School growing up. Then I went to UConn. I played soccer and baseball there. And then after that, I played a little pro soccer. Got into an accident. And then I pretty much started fishing a little bit more full time as a hobby. When I was younger, my older brother Paul has been pretty much a major influence and a part of my life growing up, and as a father figure. But I remember when I was 8 years old, specifically, he pretty much took me fishing in these little streams in the condos where we lived, and it kind of catching these little, 4 or 5 inch trout. They're just brookies, and from there it kind of flowed into us sneaking into the the quarry above there and catching some bass. And I remember literally walking through with shoes during the summer with a couple of my buddies, literally walking up the stream into the actual quarry where the water department ran, and we just had a blast up there. And that pretty much started my hook on bass fishing.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. So since then, I mean, being an ex-athlete, I needed to stay involved, and I needed to be competitive, and I needed to do something and compete. And I started researching and looking at the BASS at the time, was the Bassmaster Classic, that whole deal for the big boat side of things. They didn't have kayak fishing 14 years ago as big as it is now.
Right.
So I started doing some research, and myself, along with two of my buddies, my older brother, we joined the Bass Club in the Federation as a non-boater. And we learned the trade of the club and trying to fish bigger tournaments. And from there, I ended up buying a boat. The following year with my brother, we split it, and then I started winning the club for the next 2 years. And I say, you know what, this is nice. This is it's a good feeling going out there catching fish and learning on your own. And these old timers who took me under their wing, they pretty much said, hey, spend time on the water. That's how you're going to learn. And I think to this day holds very true to everybody along the country, practicing fishing, seeing what's there, fish finders, all this stuff. It's just, you spend time on the water, it's going to pay off.
Exactly. I mean, time on the water is the best experience. I mean, it's just like any trade. I mean, you can go to school for it, but until you actually get in the shop and put your hands on the things, you really don't know what you're doing.
No.
So you got to get out there. You got to get the time on the water. Now, how long did you stick with the Federation for?
I was in the Federation, I want to say about 6-7 years strong. I started with the BASS, and I started fishing some of the bigger tournaments throughout Connecticut. Obviously, that's where I'm from. So we did that, and then I ended up fishing the TBF, which is the FLW series on that side of the deal.
Right.
And I was fishing them both at one point, but on top of that, I was actually running a national tournament series out here in Connecticut at the time. The company was out of Kentucky, and that's kind of where I started my directing career as as a full-time director, running tournaments, being involved, meeting new people, growing it. And I was the vice president of the BASS club that I was in, and I was like 22 at the time, 23. So I was just kind of learning all the tricks of the trade and kind of figuring out what to do and how to grow things. And while I was fishing both of those, I was also fishing the tournament series that I was running for 5, 6 years. So I was pretty busy fishing about 40 tournaments a year, but that's all I did. I mean, I didn't really go away. It was just like all local tournaments and qualify for regionals and nationals, and that's all I did was fish and compete. And I always smiled too because it's a good time being out there. I'm glad we have the opportunity to actually still be fishing, and people have to work, and I know we talked a little bit about family life and things like that, and I just fortunate enough to have good family behind me, and always willing to lend a hand and help out. So it's been a good ride for the last 15 years of fishing competitively. So
It sounds it. Now, what made you want to start NE Bassin?
sure. So the organization that I was part of, I'm not going to say their name, obviously, but the organization I was a part of, there was issues with the organization that I myself, as a director, saw. I approached the owner, who I knew personally. I remember going to fish the national championship at Kentucky Lake, and they rented out an entire room where I want to say there was like 60 directors like myself, and I was actually the youngest one in the room. And I was the one standing up and taking charge and leading. And I suggested for them to stop holding the national championship at Kentucky Lake every year. It was the same old people, the top 5 teams, just mixed every year, winning the big money, winning the truck, winning the boat. And it was kind of like there was only 1 or 2% of anglers out here that were teams that I was fishing, that I was running the organization, that would actually travel to Kentucky. I mean, it's a lot to do to go pre-fish that giant body of water for 4 or 5 days and then try to compete versus these guys who live on the lake.
Exactly.
It's just tough to do, even though I still had contacts, and I was talking to Edwin Evers and actually KVD, because I was part of the Nitro team, at shows, and they hooked me up. And God willing, I went there and practiced, and I think the smallest fish I caught was 4.5 pounds. It was during the spawn, and the biggest I caught was about 8.5 pounds. And it was awesome. And then all of a sudden, a hurricane came through the night before the tournament. The lake rose 10 feet, and it was a wash. We just kind of had to stay close by and figure it out. But the point I'm making is that it was always held at Kentucky Lake. And I suggested to him, hey, why don't you bring it to New England area and circulate around the country, because that's what your company does. And he's like, nope, this is where it is every time. So I disagreement. And then the following year, we kept sending money out here from the New England teams. And we just never had a chance to go win that money back. And at the end of the day, there was some shady things going on. And I ended up making the decision, along with the 70 guys underneath me for my division, said, I'm done. I'm not going to direct anymore. And they said why. And I told them all the reasons why. And there was just a big disagreement between me and the owner. And they said, James, go on your own. You're a good kid. You're loud. You make it a really good atmosphere. It's different. It's fun, and open up your own trail. So I thought about it. And at that same time, I actually made the TBF state team. And I actually went to go fish the regional championship over at Thousand Islands now it's been 6 years. And I brought my laptop with me, and I brought some ideas, some guys, and I made some phone calls up there, and I started creating the NE Bassin brand and logo while on that trip. So that's how NE Bassin came about. It wasn't even my idea. Like, I can't even take full credit for it because it was the anglers who I was friends with, who I was close to. It was their suggestion. Hey, open up your own thing. We're going to follow you anyway. So before I even created it, NE Bassin, I have already had a huge following of guys who were bearing arms and just all for it. So, which made it a lot easier to be able to construct and run. And that just started with the big boat series. Because again, we didn't do kayaks at the time. It was strictly big boats. And these are big boat guys.
Right.
And we were doing it for the first year. And the first month and a half, I was all new to this whole thing because it's a different atmosphere. Although I'm a professional designer and I do design work for people, the whole social media boom happened, and it's like, well, if you don't have a website, you're not legit, right? And nowadays, if you don't have an Instagram or a Facebook or a Snapchat, you're not legit.
Right.
So I started posting some stuff on Facebook, And within a month and a half, I found a different director who reached out to me, and we opened up two big boat divisions in Connecticut. And then a month and a half later, we had a contact through a family member, not me, just through a buddy who was fishing with us, a member out of Maine. And then we had three big boat divisions all of a sudden. And it just kind of popped up within 2 months. And I'm like, I don't even know where this is going, but we're just gonna go with it. I mean, I didn't know what to do at the time. I didn't want to say no, and not give these guys a chance or an opportunity to kind of grow as themselves, because directing for me has helped me grow over the last 14, 15 years. So that's how NE Bassin was actually created. And
Now, what
I
what
said,
year was it? What year was this when you first started?
6 years. I think NE Bassin started in 2015 was the first year.
Okay.
So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then this is going to be 2020. So this is going to be our sixth year going strong with it. But that's where it all started from. You know, the whole Facebook thing definitely helped us grow immediately, because there really wasn't any organizations doing what we were doing, or running how we were running.
Right. Now, starting as a bass boat series and all of that, and you were from the bass boat world, and why add the kayaks into the NE Bassin format?
Next, yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I think to this day, I still, again, these stories have just been with me growing the company. And there was literally one person who contacted me. He was from Middlebury, Connecticut. I think his name was John, and he was actually in the midst of actually moving to like Alabama or something like the following year. But he just wanted to fish, and he called me up. I had no clue who this kid was. And he said, "Hey, can I fish the tournament at Candlewood Lake next weekend?" And I'm like, "Sure, like you can fish. Why not? What kind of boat you have?" He's like, "I don't have a boat. I have a kayak, but I still want to just go compete. I probably won't win, but I just want to go compete with you guys and kind of be a part of the family." He's like, "I've been following you guys, this and that." I'm like, "Well, listen, unfortunately, I don't have a problem with you coming to fish, because we all share the same passion, the same hobby of bass fishing." I said, "Unfortunately, based on our rules, you don't have a working live well in your kayak." And at this time, I didn't even know what the KBF was, because, again, as you mentioned, I was a big boat guy. So I didn't really know where to go, where to look at, or who to even talk to about it. Um, and I said, "Unfortunately, you can't." He's like, "Well, I could just make like a laundry basket and just drag it behind the boat." And I said, "That's not real fish friendly, and it's not environmentally good for the fish." I said, "I think DEP can like tag you for this." And I said, "Unfortunately, at this time, I won't be able to do that." So that one conversation kind of hit home for me. And out of nowhere, we ended up getting a little idea. And me and a couple of close friends talked. One of my best friends, Chris Wilcox, who actually passed away a couple of years ago from a heart attack, he was part of the whole original crew. And it was actually happened. We opened a kayak series because of him. I didn't have any kayaker friends at the time. I didn't really know, again, it wasn't big then in New England.
Right.
Uh, but Chris actually had a small boat. He had like a really small pontoon, but like one of those
Bass
boats.
tender kind of thing.
Yeah, like a bass tender, exactly. He had like a stand-up boat, and I said, "Well, listen, we can make a kayak series, and that's just because you have a boat. Let's just make it 12-foot boats or less." And that's how the whole thing even started. And he's like, "Listen, I'll direct it then." So he started directing it, and we put it on Facebook and Instagram, and we started talking about it with friends. And literally within the next month, I want to say I spoke on the phone to at least 4 people per night. I would go to school, teach, come back. I would be on the phone for 5 hours. And there was like an overabundance of about, I want to say I talked about 60 to 70 anglers throughout the region. Said, "Listen, we see this thing. We want to be a part of it. Like, how much is it to fish? How much is it to do this?" When we didn't even have a schedule yet, we just put it out there to see if there was interest. And the, I don't know if it was really a mistake. I guess there's learning curves with it, but the biggest question to these guys were, "Hey, how much is the tournaments?" And because the big boat tournaments were $80, I said, "Well, they're going to be $80 just because it was easy to use the payout schedule that we've already had." So
Right. Stick to the
why?
same system. Yep.
I had no clue, because again, there was nothing really to go off of. It was just a brand new concept. So out of those 60 people I spoke to, I think there was 5 people who ended up joining, who I call the originals, including Jack Tibbins. He's actually one of them. Myself, Chris, there was a couple other guys too, but we ended up changing it because after the first couple of tournaments, we only had 6 to 7 anglers at a tournament. Now, I didn't know if that was good or bad, so we changed it. We had a little group voting at the tournaments, and we brought it down to $40. So to this day, we've kept that same concept. And the following year, out of those 7 kayak anglers we have, or small boat guys, we then had like the next following year, which would be the second year, we had about 100 of us. And I think it was just something we just had to put out there. I think part of it was a timing deal. Just because really nobody was really offering tournaments then, and it was just part of those things where we were kind of growing, making adjustments, modifications to suit the kayak angler.
Right. How many kayak divisions do you have in NE Bassin now?
So we currently have, I think, 9.
9 kayak divisions.
And there's 2 more that I've been on the phone with talking to people at shows over the last 2 weeks, or there might be possibly 2 more popping up. So we currently have, I think, 9 of them as of right now. But I always, me and Jack always make jokes because the first kayak tournament ever for NE Bassin, I actually won. But the ironic thing is, I didn't fish out of a kayak. I actually brought my Nitro Z8 with me, and I was just gonna go to the ramp. I think it was Winchester Lake was the first ever NE Bassin kayak tournament, and I told the guys, "Hey, I was just there to take some photos. Just I was gonna bring the boat in. I never been to this body of water before." And I went and I said, "Well, here's the deal. Because there's only 6 of us, if you want me to put in, I will pay an entry fee to enter." I said, "But the deal is this, because it's a little bit unfair. I'm in a giant bass boat and everybody's in a kayak in a small boat." I said to them, "Here's the deal. If I win this tournament, which I probably won't because I never fished here in my life, if I win, I'll use my trolling motor only. My big motor will be out of the water." I said, "If I win, I'll only take half of the winnings, and I'm going to put the other half into the kitty for next tournament." And everyone was like, "Okay, that seems pretty fair to me." I literally there was 1 fish caught the entire tournament because it was super early in the season. I caught 1 fish off a brush pile, and that was that. So it's just funny. The first ever kayak tournament NE Bassin was won out of a bass boat, which is kind of funny to look back at.
Do all the kayak divisions allow small boat, or are some of them kayak only?
Yep. So out of the 3 series, you're referring to the kayak series, but we have the kayak series, we have the big boat series, working live on, and then we have the 15-foot boat / kayak team series. So the kayak series across the board, we're in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, possibly one in New York popping up. Where else? New Hampshire. I think I mentioned that. But the kayak series is straight up rules. So there's 12-foot boats or less, and then any size kayak, any size canoe, and any size paddleboard. And I add paddleboard in there because we had 1 or 2 people actually fish from their paddleboard during the summer when it's wicked hot. They brought their girlfriend and they were just on the paddleboards having a good time.
Yeah, last year, one of the Rhode Island ones was a paddleboard. Sharon Kelsey or something like that, I believe.
Yeah, but that does ring a bell. Yeah. I actually name, but
I think she went to the regional.
She did.
Yeah.
I think she fished almost out of the, or maybe she had. I think she borrowed a kayak as like a sun dolphin or something.
Oh yeah.
It was something that wasn't very deep.
Right.
she was getting wet and it was cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the kayak series across the board, and then we have 8 or 9 divisions, like I mentioned, and a couple new features that we added to the kayak series is now you can use 7 rods compared to, I think we had a limit of 5. You can have a 70-pound trolling motor thrust. Obviously, me and you have PDLs, but a lot of people are still engaging and still learning. I mean, I was at a brewery yesterday, and there was a kid who saw the hat, and we were talking, and he was our bartender, and he was, "Hey, man, like, do you have kayaks? Like, I'm looking to buy a kayak." And I'm like, "Well, anything specific?" And he's like, "Well, I don't really know." So I was trying to educate him. Well, listen, there's kayaks that are just paddle, right? And then there's kayaks that are now pedal drive, or I don't want to say Hobie, but Hobie with the fin things, right? The kicker. And then you have kayaks nowadays who are mounting trolling motors too. And it all depends on how much money you want to spend. And that's the biggest deal.
Right. Now you got the new old towns that come with the autopilot built right into them.
Yep.
Insane. Insane.
Technology has come a long way for sure, whether it's the fish finders or the trolling motors. But I still have downstairs in the garage the original MK, which was the trolling motor built in the middle.
Yep.
Same concept. but there's no spot lock. It's a straight shot. It gets locked in, and I steer with my feet, which is the same concept as the new ones.
Right.
But it's cool because you have instant forward and you also have instant reverse. And at the time, Hobie didn't have that. Just the Old Town did.
Right.
That was their big sales pitch, and I still have it downstairs. I'm actually going to use it tomorrow. My younger brother's coming over. We're going to go fishing tomorrow. He'll take the PDL, and I'll take that one. But yeah, these kayaks are crazy.
Yeah, they are.
And they're not cheap. So when I mentioned to the guy last night, I said, "Well, how much money do you want to spend on one of these things?" He's like, "Well, I don't really know. Like, how much are they?" I'm like, "Well, if you come into the game and you want a PDL or a motor, it's going to cost you $2 to $4 grand." He's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "Yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with the paddle. I think I'm just going to get a workout and keep working on my arms."
Yeah.
He said. I think, yeah, that might be a better shot for you. Just go maybe online and try to find a user.
Yeah, I mean that's the way to start. But it quickly becomes addictive, and you're saving your pennies because you want the greatest thing out there.
And that whole spot lock thing has definitely changed the game.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, looking back as a big boat guy, I mean, I've always told people when I first started, there was no stand up kayaks, and I never even owned a kayak before. And then all of a sudden, Old Town and Hobie, they started making these like fishing machines.
Yeah.
That was about 6, 7 years ago, and I said, I just want to be able to stand on my kayak. I want to have the same feeling and the same presence that I do on my big boat, standing up front with the trolling motor and having that same feel. And then Old Town and Hobie, they came up with these big machines and they could stand on them now. And that's how I felt comfortable fishing. Sitting down for me just wasn't the best thing. I remember my sciatic nerve when I qualified for the first regional championship through NE Bassin for the kayak series in year one. One of the guys let me borrow this sit-in kayak, little army green sit-in kayak that you go recreational like paddling with. It wasn't even a fishing kayak. And I remember my sciatic nerve, I couldn't even get out of the kayak at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That was the second time ever in my life that I was in a kayak. First time during college, I took one of my friend's kayaks at her pond and went out there. That was the first time ever. The second time ever was at the regional championship because I obviously couldn't use my big boat to fish it that first year. But yeah, man, I say, I'm never buying a kayak until I could find one I could stand up on. And then that's how Old Town came on board. And next thing I know, I had a stand-up kayak. So it's been good.
Yeah,
sure.
my first one was a Future Beach, one of those Dick Sporting Goods ones, man. And
Yeah.
after 4 or 5 hours sitting in that thing, it was brutal to try and stand up.
Well, you're not a small dude either. You're taller than me. I mean, and it was bad.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you want what you want. You got to spend some money. And I know you have a PDL and you're fishing comfortably now and loving it. And I love my PDL that I have. It's just instant forward, instant backwards. Yep. I could spot lock on without having the spot lock, actually.
Exactly.
But I can spot with the PDL and hit what I want to hit based on the fish finder. Right. So it's definitely changed the game.
Let's talk NE Bassin membership and the benefits you get with the membership.
Sure. So the membership this year is $65 for adults, which is for 16 years of age or older before their first tournament with us. And then the youth membership this year is $30. And I know a lot of people have asked us questions at shows because we speak to hundreds of people as we travel around the shows throughout the region. But we are fully insured, which is kind of a big deal. Just like the BASS, the FLW, we're fully insured. God forbid something happens. That's why we're insured. So that membership dollars actually goes mainly towards that. Once you get a membership, the cool thing with us is that we have so many divisions. I think we have about 26 divisions. I think one of the directors told me the other day, they actually counted them all. Once you're a member of NE Bassin, you could jump from state to state. You could jump from kayak series to big boat series. You could jump from team series to any NE Bassin tournament that you want, which gives you kind of an open-ended structure, allows you to fish at your own pace and kind of do what you enjoy and do what you love. Nowadays people have families, they have kids. There's work schedules, there's vacation schedules, there's this virus schedule now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pretty much become a member and then you have access to all of our 160 plus events. I know last year we ended up, this whole youth membership started a couple years ago, but we really zoned in on a couple really good anglers at the middle school and high school level, and we started a high school series last year. So we currently have a high school series right now in Connecticut, and we'll be soon opening up one in New York. And I just spoke to a gentleman this morning from the New Hampshire show. We're probably going to open up one in New Hampshire as well, which has really taken off because it's previous to these high school series that we open, middle school and high school kids would have to fish versus guys like me and you.
Right.
They're fishing as adults, and
Although sometimes they kick our ass.
absolutely. Well, that's part of the issue. Was one issue was the fact that on one end, these kids looked up to us and wanted to beat our butts. And at times they did. And then on the flip side of things, when the adults would win, they would be like, like kind of down. So it was kind of like a flip flop situation. But we ended up creating this kayak series for the high school kids and middle school kids just because now they can compete for themselves. Now they can make their own decisions on the water. I think one of the cool things as this fishing world evolves into high school fishing and then college fishing now, right?
Right.
With all the college championships and such, like some of these kids now that we have from on the high school side of things, we have high school directors running high school events. And I think that's a really key thing being an educator in my life is trying to be able to put that on their resume to possibly even make it to the next level to go fish in college possibly. So they're taking a lead role, they're spreading the word, they're on social media trying to gather different middle school and high school kids to follow, and these kids are just eating it up. It's just a good thing. It's just like another sport. I don't know if you played sports growing up.
Oh yeah.
I think you have.
Yeah.
We weren't on the streets. We were out there kicking a soccer ball, hitting a baseball, tackling somebody for the football field, right? That's what kept us busy. And nowadays fishing has evolved so much as a main sport. These kids are fishing.
Right.
And they have their own friends and their groups that they go with and such. We didn't have high school fishing when we
No.
grew up in high
We
school.
we still don't have it here in Rhode Island, and
It's only a matter of time.
I can't wait. These kids need something like that.
They do. And I think once they have the opportunity, and we market ourselves, I would say, fairly well, but we don't do the best at trying to outreach to connect to people. And I think a lot of that has to deal with me and the directors will talk and such. And if I put something online, hey, we're looking for a Rhode Island high school director, we're going to get possibly a bunch of calls, but they're going to be the wrong calls.
Right.
This whole organization was built from the ground up, all based on just being natural. We just naturally grew. And it was just meeting people face to face at shows and talking to people on social media and having phone conversations and actually creating a relationship. It wasn't just like forced upon people. We offered it and they wanted to be a part of this and they did it. And that's pretty much the biggest reason why we are where we are right now. So it's going.
Now, entry fees into the kayak series, you spoke on it. It was $40.
Yep.
And
nice. Yep.
The lunker included, or lunker is separate?
Yep. So lunker separate. So it's $40 per angler for the kayak series, which are solo events. $10 lunker, which is optional at the ramp. That's just a separate payout. And I know a lot of new guys that we speak to, hey, what is lunker? And that's what it is. It's just an extra chance or opportunity to take some money home and possibly catch a big fish that day and come home with some money. The high school series events, those are $25 a pop. So those are obviously a little bit cheaper because it's not really about the money at that point. It's more about them getting on the water, making decisions, making friends, relationships and such. And I couldn't say enough about our Connecticut one because the parents get involved. We have 3 directors that help all run it collectively as a group, and their parents have made cookies and brought cupcakes and make little giveaways and baggies for all these kids, which is great. It's like this whole organization is not just me or the directors, it's other people getting involved, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. I fished the Coventry Lake, Connecticut tournament 2 years ago with Jack. Mm-hmm. And there was some high school kids there, and like their parents were there cheering them on and dropping them off and helping them rig their kayaks and stuff. It was pretty cool to see.
It's always good seeing parents be involved, because there's a lot of parents in this world who just aren't involved, and it's always a blessing to be able to see these kids have good parents and they want to help out and they want to be there. It's just like another sport, like we talked about,
right?
And as we continue to grow, we just started this year. because we wanted to try to get outside of New England. And again, it wasn't even an idea we had. Somebody contacted us through an indirect buddy, and we started this year the NE Bassin C2C, which is the coast to coast. We just opened up our first kayak series outside of New England, and now we're in Missouri. And we're not trying to be the KBF. We're not trying to be anybody that we're not. It's just natural growth, and people like what we're doing. And
Right. If people want to join, it doesn't make sense to turn them away. So I mean,
yeah, we'll give them a shot, and they can make their own name for each other. And I think we've done a really good job with all the directors who come on board with us. As of now, one of them was a previous director, so he had somewhat of a clue. He's a big boat guy, but 99% of our directors since day one have never been a director before. They were brand new into the area or the sport. They just wanted to be able to have something in their area, to be able to fish locally, so they didn't have to travel, an hour, 2 hours to go fish a tournament because we were only in Connecticut or Mass. So I think a lot of these directors nowadays, all through us, we have, I think, 18 directors. They've all made their own names for themselves. They're all made their own sponsors now because they can use NE Bassin as leverage as an organization that's trying to lead the region by example, which we take pretty much awesome pride in. I mean, they're always helping out at the shows. We have a directors meeting next weekend at my house. They're all going to come here and help out. It's just a really good feeling and a really good concept to have all these people on board with us for all the right reasons. So
now how about the format for the kayak series? Are we 3 fish, 5 fish? How do they submit
yep.
fish?
Yep. So the kayak series is across the board is a 3 fish limit. We had a couple talks in the off season about possibly changing it, but that will be something that the directors would do at their own leisure based on their own division. But as of now, like it's been the last 5 years, it'll be a 3 fish limit. It's all based on catch, measure, release. I know there was a hog trough issue a couple weeks back. We don't plan on changing anything from a metal board to a plastic board. Based on a couple of videos that myself and a couple of directors watched, there was a couple of guys showing the flex of the plastic boards, and they said that the yellow one isn't really moving much based on the compound bonds that they use for that color. The white one, on the other hand, does give you an extra quarter-inch or a little bit more. So we don't plan on changing anything. It's going to all be the yellow boards. If people have metal ones, they can contact the director to get the okay from it. But we're not going to change it and force these guys to spend 60, 70, 80 bucks on a board, especially when a lot of these guys are doing it for fun.
Right.
And a lot of our tournaments are straight up at the body of water, so people are there watching and doing different things. And although we did start an online series this year, which is probably another question down the road, but we're not going to change anything. So it's all based on the yellow hog trough through us, and we have them at all the events. I did touch base with Tourney Tag this year, and they sent us a whole bunch of tags.
Oh, you should have talked to me, man. I'm on their team. I'm on their pro team. You just talked to me.
Man, it was a spur of the moment deal, and I spoke to the owner, and he was a big help, and he sent us like 150 of them.
Yeah, he's a good guy, man. Good guy.
Awesome. Yeah. So now we're gonna get kind of away from the bracelets. We've always had the bracelets that had to be in the photograph, and we're kind of going away from that just because sometimes they get lost in the sweatshirt or in your jacket, especially if it's raining. Even though they are waterproof, sometimes it's a pain in the neck to hold that fish and actually be able to get your bracelet.
Yeah, so I've had a few times that I fished in the NE Bassin with that bracelet where I'd have to. Good thing I wasn't a rookie. I look at my pictures before I release the fish, and I notice my bracelet's not showing.
Sure. Yeah. Again, this whole fishing world and this kayak deal it's all a learning curve. I mean, I think all of us, and I think I've watched a couple of your episodes, and you talk about with other people about fish jumping off the boards. I mean, it's just a learning curve, and you need to practice with it. And once I don't know how many fish jumped off your board, but I only had one fish off my board, and it was about a 4.5-pound smallie. And since then, that was in Cape Cod when I went to go fish one of the Cape Cod events about 5 years ago. It will never happen again. I was babying this thing, and I had the hog trough high, and now what I do is I put it on the bottom of the kayak, and I dangle my legs off the side of the kayak, and that thing is in the actual predator.
Yeah.
And if it jumps, and I just keep messing with it until I get a good photograph. But it will never happen again.
Yeah. This year I had quite a bit in the past that had jumped off, but this year I finally figured out a good routine for me where I don't think it'll ever happen again.
Yeah, I mean, it only takes once because I mean, we're all fishing competitive and we're all competing for trophies and or plaques or there's always money on the line,
Right.
right? And it could be one fish that ruins your whole day or your tournament, you
Yep.
know. But everything's just a learning curve. You make adjustments, modifications, and you kind of do the best you can do. So
So 3 fish limit. You use the hog trough, and they submit through Tourney X. Are you guys using Tourney X now, or are you
yeah,
still
so
doing the at the ramp?
yeah, so I don't have anything against Tourney X other than the fact that they take $5 for every entry. And because all of our tournaments are usually under 20 boats or less, it could be an extra $100. So what we do, because I'm a big boat guy, and the whole concept is fishing. When we have a big boat tournament, we catch the fish live well, put it in the weigh-in bag, walk up to the weigh-in station, and weigh the fish. I still firmly believe that that's probably the right way to do it. But I do understand that when you get 100 boat tournaments, it could take forever to do that. You know, but our tournaments are small enough, so everyone will still be able to show the photographs to the director at the end of the day. They'll have the NE Bassin tent and the banner, and they'll show their 3 fish. And the directors, as well as the co-director and any helpers, will be able to help out and measure the fish for that day. So that's what they're doing. I do know now on there is I think our Missouri division, they were going to try using Tourney X. And again, these directors have freedom to do whatever they think is best. Um, I know in our 15-foot boat slash kayak team series, Greg, who's running our Connecticut team series event, he's doing an MLF formatted thing, and I think he was on a couple weeks ago, but he's using Tourney X.
Right.
So you have to sign up the team on Tourney X, and it's unlimited fish up to, I think, up to 20, and so there's just different modifications for every division,
Right.
but most of the divisions are all run the same without Tourney X.
How about age requirements for the kayak series? Is there any cutoff as far
So
as?
as far as age, yep. So as far as age, which is a good question, you have to at least be in middle school. You can still be a youth or a minor, but that's why on the insurance forms and the insurance waiver that they have to sign, their parents can co-sign for them and take the pressure off that. So, and honestly, we've had kids who were in like 5th grade and they weren't in middle school, and the parents contacted us and they was like, listen, we just want to compete. I'm going to go out there with my child if you don't mind. And he just loves fishing, and I don't fish that much, but my son loves to fish. And I said, listen, as long as he wears a life jacket the whole time, all youth have to wear life jackets the entire time. um, I think he was like 9 or 10 years old, and he was out there competing versus us, which is a cool thing. And his dad was there, and I don't mind if his parents are on the water with him. I would prefer that,
Right.
because I don't have to be worried about the kid and trying to help him around or make sure he's all right. But I think a lot of our members, as well as directors, have done a great job being able to help and give any kind of pointers or help on the water. I know there was a couple of guys who also flip kayaks, and I think it happens everywhere, right? It's just
Yep.
unfortunate. I think it's a giant wake, or you hit a stone or a wood or a piece of wood or something or wind, and you just lean wrong, and I think a lot of us have helped. I've actually helped one of the kids, one of my buddies, in the 2 years ago when we fished Cape Cod in Massachusetts, our regional championship. He just flipped over and the water was like 40 degrees, and he had his whole rain suit on, and he lost some stuff, but we rushed over to him. We got him in the kayak. We dragged him to shore, and he was fine. Thank God. So things happen, unfortunately, because you're competing. So you're trying to take that extra cast or that extra
Right.
step or that extra body movement, trying to move your body the one way, and things happen. So as long as you do safety things, wear your life jacket, and you have good friends around you, I think it's always key to do that.
What do you think are the benefits of kayak fishing?
Compared to the big boat, obviously,
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah.
There's definitely, and I had a conversation the other day because we just came back from New Hampshire and we talked to a bunch of people. So these are kind of all fresh in my mind. But I think one of the things with kayak fishing is it's more stealthy, right? There's no real noise, especially with the PDLs, or if you're paddling, you can go as slow as you want. Um, you can also get in the areas that big boats can't get into. You can get into skinny water. You can get into 6 inches of water or 5 inches of water. You can get into these little back coves. You can go over sandbars that aren't an issue for you anymore. You can drag your kayak over some beaver dams, which I know some people have done. So you can get in the areas that you can't get within a boat. That's one thing. Um, being able to have that stealth mode and be able to not scare those fish away. If the fish sees you, you're screwed. It's already too late
Right.
in most cases. Now that they're spawning and they'll go back to the bed. But I think that's one of the biggest things. And I think kayak fishing has made me really zone in. And I fish differently out of my kayak compared to my big boat because on my big boat, I have a 250 Merc. I can go down 4 or 5 miles down the lake within 5 minutes and hit another spot. I can't constantly move with my kayak because it takes time. And if I want to go a mile down the lake, there better be fish there. Like I'm taking a risk and I'm taking a chance that they're there. And I think kayak fishing has really made me zone in on a particular area or areas and really fish those hard and know what's there, whether it's a rock or a boulder or a laydown or a tree or a hump or whatever structure is there. It really makes you slow down your fishing,
Right.
you know, and you're in that area and you're pounding it and pounding it. And then if there's nothing there, then you move. But it's really made me slow down for sure. Because the big boat, I'm a runner and gunner, man. Like I go to these areas, I fish for 15, 20 minutes. They're not there. I'm going to the next spot. And it doesn't matter because you can go 45, 80 miles an hour on some of these big bodies of water where there's no speed limit, you know, and that's just what I do. But as far as the kayak thing, it has really made me slow down, really work that bait, hit every structure, hit multiple casts. And luckily for me, I've been successful with it. So
Now, if you had to choose bass boat or kayak, if somebody made you choose, you had to choose for the rest of your life, what are you choosing?
is money an option?
No,
Money's no option.
no option.
I think I would have to personally choose my big boat just because that's where I started from. That's where I've been, and I think it gives me a lot more access to bigger bodies of water. And again, being able to move freely wherever I want to go with the big boat, it, it gives me more options. I feel like
Right.
the kayak is great because I can go fish smaller bodies of water that my big boat can't get involved in, you know. But I'm a big boat guy by heart. I think that's probably what I would choose, unfortunately. if you're
I
forcing
that's
me,
the
if
answer
you're
I
forcing me,
expected. That is the answer I expected.
if it was the other way around when I started on my kayak, I would probably have a different answer for you. But I think I'm growing as a kayak fisherman, and I fish way more out of my big boat because I'm the director for the big boat tournaments, you know. But I still try to be a part of the kayak thing and still promote and kind of help out and be there for other members and directors. So this year is the first year I'm only directing one big boat division. So now it has freed up a bunch of my time. I know last year I had a neck issue and a back issue where I was out where I couldn't really kayak. I only went out I think twice, maybe 3 times. But this year I'm going to try to get involved and go fish some of Greg's with the MLF format and go fish Rhode Island and just try to go around a little bit more and be a part of the whole organization and just meet new members and such.
Right.
So
Um,
I'm looking.
explain like the regionals, the kayak series regional, how people qualify.
Sure. So with us, every NE Bassin tournament is technically an open. And what I mean by an open is that anybody can come fish. But with us, you have to be an NE Bassin member to fish with us. So every tournament is open, which means you can go fish a Rhode Island kayak tournament with us, and that's a tournament. Even though it's in within a division, it's just within all of our tournaments as a whole are opens. If you want to fish for more incentives, then you're going to fish a division because you can go for the top 3 for plaques. And again, there's always an option to qualify for the KBF National Championship through us as a partner. And you're also fishing for an NE Bassin free regional bid that will pay for you to go fish our regional championship. So every tournament that you fish with us, you're accumulating points. It's all based on a 100-point scale. So first place, we get 100 points. Second place, 99. Third place, 98, so on and so forth. So in order to qualify for our regional championship, you need 380 points across the board. And that's for all of our series, the big boat, the team series, and the kayak series. So with us, we don't force people to fish the full trail. We do force people to pay for 3 events up front just because when they're invested in us, we're going to be back invested in them. And we also don't allow cherry pickers to come fish one tournament here because they live on Lake X and they want to take home 300, 400, $500 and then never show up again. You know,
Right.
we want the money going back in the NE Bassin members' pockets who've invested their time and their money with us for all these tournaments. So You need 380 points minimum. Last year was the first year we actually did something a little bit different because I know people's schedules sometimes are tough. And I know a lot of members cross over and fish multiple divisions as well as multiple series. So what we did last year, as long as you fish 2 tournaments in any series, right? So let's say you fished a tournament in Connecticut and a tournament in Massachusetts for the kayak series, you could then buy your way into the regional championship. It's just a steeper amount. And what we did with that is it actually balanced out the people who were actually qualifying, fishing 4 or 5 or more tournaments, where these people weren't qualifying through points, but they were being invited. And I think it helped out. It didn't bring us in like 10 or 15 new people, but it definitely brought in 2 to 4 more teams or anglers for each of our regional championships, which is kind of fun because sometimes we try staggering our kayak regional championship along with our team kayak regional championship on the same weekend now and in the same state. So when people go away, they have the options to fish both of them with us, which most people do. So that's kind of how it works as far as points goes.
Explain.
And you don't have to fish all in one division. You could fish one in Connecticut,
Right.
fish one in Rhode Island, fish one in Mass, and you accumulate all these points. As long as you have 380 points, whether it's in one division or they add up, you qualify.
Explain the team series. How does that work?
So the team series is just a spin-off from our kayak series. You can fish alone or you can fish with a teammate. This whole series came about because our kayak series, we only allowed 12-foot boats or less. And when we would go to shows and talk to people online and we would get phone calls and emails, a lot of people had like a 13-foot boat or a 14-foot John boat. And it was kind of like a middle of the road deal where it wasn't big enough to fish our big boat series because some of these smaller rigs don't have working live wells. But at the same token, it was too big to fish for some of the kayaks based on our previous rules. So instead of twisting our rules, we decided there was so many people involved that we just created this 15-foot boat or less / kayak team series. We also had a bunch of anglers who were high school kids who didn't want to fish alone, and they wanted to fish together as a team.
Right.
So that's this whole series even came about. And the only difference is that the kayak series is a 3-fish limit. This kayak team series is a 5-fish limit. Same thing based on the hog trough. And you're working with a teammate. But you could still fish alone. So the only difference is that there's a 5-fish limit and it's $60 per team, not per angler.
Right. So it's like a lot of the bass boat series too. I mean, most of them a team, but most you can fish alone. Do you guys allow bass boat guys to fish alone?
Well, bass boat guys, so it has to be 15-foot. You mean like on the big boat series?
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. So based on different states, a lot of the rules are set up like in New York and New Hampshire, where you can have 4 fish in your live well, but you can't have 5. So it hurts people when their teammate can't go.
Okay.
With us, we just made it a straight 5-fish limit because some of these tournaments are 6 and 8-fish limits, where you, based on the rules and regulations for that state, one person can't have 6 fish in the boat, so they get penalized. So with us, we just made it a 5-fish limit across the board, and you could fish alone or you could fish with a teammate. And it's the same concept in the 15-foot boat / kayak team series, where it's only a 5-fish limit, and it's all catch, measure, release, just like in the kayak series. And the cool thing about that is that we allow guys to fish 2 on a boat. If it's a John boat, they can fish 2. If it's a crawdad, they can still fish 2 on the same boat. So at least they can kind of hang out during the day, net each other's fish. And just have fun, have someone to talk to, and on the flip side of it, just you can take your kayak, I can take my kayak, me and you could team up in Greg's division, hypothetically, and we're our own team. We could fish near each other, we can help net each other's fish, we can help measure fish, or me and you could disperse throughout the lake and fish wherever we want. Hey, I'm gonna go hit that rock wall. Hey, I'm gonna go hit that shoreline because we're really struggling. Let's try something different.
Right.
You could disperse, and I may catch nothing for that day, and you might catch 20 fish, and we're going to use your top 5.
Right. Makes sense.
And the only difference is obviously Greg's division because it's more of the KBF style.
The MLF. Yeah, MLF.
Counts. Every fish counts, so it's a little bit different. But I mean, people seem to be loving it. We just opened up one in Rhode Island. I know John out there, John and Greg, they opened one up through their internal division for the kayak series, so they're doing both, and I know they're doing awesome things out there with their fundraising stuff, and they're paying for guys to go fish and jerseys, the whole nine yards. I know you know because we
Yeah,
talked about
right.
it at the Springfield show. But yeah, I mean everything's going great so far with the whole deal, and it's just something again, something different. It's a different concept. Instead of fishing alone, you fish with a teammate, or you can fish alone. So there's options.
Right. It's pretty cool. I can't wait to see how it all plays out. The team thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, where would you like to see? Where and what would you like to see next for NE Bassin?
You should have given me like an email list.
Nah, we the viewers
I,
like the raw footage, man. They
know,
like
I
that
know.
raw footage.
I get it. I don't really, man. It's a tough question to ask because, or to answer rather, it's because this whole thing has been, like I mentioned earlier, homegrown, and it wasn't even supposed to be where it was 4 years ago. It wasn't what shouldn't have been where it was last year. I didn't have this huge concept in mind. I mean, like I mentioned to you, I'm a high school teacher, and I own a design and print firm, and I do things on the side as well. And this whole thing kind of just like fell in my lap, and we just keep growing it together alongside the members and directors. But I mean, we just keep evolving. I don't really have an answer because I don't know where it's going to go. And I tell this all the people who I talk to the shows and directors, and it's nothing against them or me. And if this thing continues to grow, then so be it. As long as it's all going for the right reasons and naturally, and nothing's on purpose, great. And if this thing was to just fold in a year or 2 years, that's okay too, because this whole thing was started because of my passion for bass fishing and being able to direct. Um, so we're not trying to be anybody that we're not. It's just been homegrown since day one. And I don't really have an answer for you, Justin. Unfortunately, I don't know where it's going to go. There's no set goal in mind other than people continuing to have fun, uh, people offering tournaments for people to be a part of, and make the memories out on the water with their friends, families, or even themselves. It's just we try to offer something different. And I know you run your division in Rhode Island, which is awesome. There's a bunch of other smaller clubs throughout the Massachusetts and Maine and New Hampshire and stuff that do their own thing, which is great. And I know a lot of people think, oh, you mad at them? No, I'm not mad. Like, I'm happy. Like, we're here because we all have the same passion, and we all love bass fishing. So for me, the more the merrier. I mean, hopefully one day, I guess someone answer your question, I would like all of us to kind of come together and be able to help all each other out and just keep growing and evolving the sport in New England, because 7 years ago there was no kayak sport in New England.
Right. That's
you know,
kind of why I started this channel here and doing these videos and including everyone, because I kind of have that same hope that we all can come together and form just one big group and everybody can work together. I mean, if the more the merrier, the more money that's involved, the more people that are going to want to fish. I mean, everybody wants to cash a check, man.
Yep. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why the KBF is the KBF, because they offer something that none of us out here can offer.
Right.
They offer the national championship, right? It's the Bassmaster Classic of kayak fishing. So, and luckily for us, they allow us to help us and qualify members and directors to be able to go fish one of those and be a part of it. And on the flip side, they kind of use our organizations to help them grow. So it's kind of like a double whammy there,
Right.
But again, they offer something completely different than any of us could offer from that big scale. I mean, we're just regionally out here. So we have a regional championship, which is cool, takes the same conversation we're having just on a state level. And we're getting people from different states to come fish and compete versus one another, and they make new friends. And it's a cool concept and idea. And I do have hopes of, I don't know what the heck we could do, or some big giant New England championship out here or something that, some of the owners from all these little, from all the organizations out here, we can all come together and create something. I don't know what that something looks like.
It'll
but I think
it'll happen. It'll happen.
It's probably eventually going to happen. And I obviously appreciate you opening the show up, because I think it's awesome. And I told you from day one, I think I messaged you before you had your first show, and I'm like, dude, this is an awesome concept. Like, I'm happy for you. Like, I hope this grows and becomes something, because it should.
Yeah, and I gotta say I appreciate the support. I mean, all of you, Greg, the NE Bassin guys. I mean, they've showed a lot of support. So I mean, I look forward to moving forward. Uh,
Absolutely.
let's talk the Big Bass Challenge
Yeah,
that
man.
John started there. I mean, you entering into that again? I'm assuming.
Yeah, man. I try to be a part of everything that I could possibly be a part of. And I think it's a good thing because, again, it gets me out of that big boat mode and it puts me into being able to fish when I want. And I think that's one of the cool things that we have on part of our add-ons. I call them our add-ons um, because they're not strict tournaments where you're going to go on one body of water and fish up until you get to the championship. But we just started this year our online series with Corey. Some of these directors have just stepped up a considerable amount, and they want to do more. So we started this online series, which is just our monthly challenge for NE Bassin members. Um, we started the grudge match a couple years ago by Heather. Heather runs the grudge match, almost like the NCAA championship deal where you get knocked out.
Right, right.
And I know other people were actually doing some similarities. And then we also, John last year had this cool idea about this Big Bash challenge that you just asked a question about. And I think it's a pretty cool concept. And I back all three of our directors on being able to push it to grow it to where we can get it. I'm glad we're a part of the situation because we back them, we help each other out. But I'm already entered in the Big Bass Challenge. I've already signed up. I'm ready to rock and roll. And I plan on doing some of Corey's online series too, just to be a part of it because all of these fish that we're going to be catching in our tournaments anyways can also use them in our Big Bass Challenge and our online series.
Right.
So why not enter something else? It is just another tournament. You just have a duration, a little bit longer time to be able to, to compete and catch your limit.
Right.
Our online series, I think I don't remember. I think it's a 3 or 5 fish limit. I think it's a 5 fish limit for the whole month. And there'll be payouts through that. And that's going to be run just like a regular division, just on a monthly basis. And I think John's runs, I think it's 4 or 5 months long.
Yeah, John's is from March to August or something like that. Yeah.
And then so that's like 4 or 5 months long to catch 5 fish. And in both of those tournaments, you can fish out of your big boat, you can fish out of your kayak or canoe, your small boat, you can fish from shore. And I think it gives people a different concept to run off of. It's not just, hey, you have to fish in your kayak. You have to fish in your kayak, So we always try to innovate and be different and come up with these different concepts just to make the sport a little more fun to do, So I'm looking forward to it again. I mean, I know the winner last year took home, I think, like $1,400 for the big fish.
Right.
And I think the concept is strong, and I think it's there, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
I think so. Hoping this year that I can qualify again and try to go. I don't even think he told us where the lake is.
Yeah,
yet. Did he?
He's supposed to tell us this week, I think.
Oh, is this the week?
Yeah.
He's been busy. He was in Florida visiting family and fishing his face off out there. So I'm pretty sure it's on the back burner, but he'll get it to where it was, And I think his concept is awesome because he's also going to move it around the states, to kind of be fair to everybody, just like we try to do for our regional championships.
Yeah, I think he said it's most likely going to be in Mass. He said he wanted to put it in the state who represents the most anglers. You know what I mean? So Mass had the most anglers last year, so he felt they should get the championship.
It makes perfect sense. It's only going to help other states sign
up more people. Rhode Island went from 3 last year to I think we have 11 this year. So I mean, it's already grown.
And I think a lot of people miss the concept of the whole thing because once you pay that, I think it's $50 or $75. I think it's $50 if you're an NE Bassin member, and $75 if you're a non-member. But you're not winning money up until you qualify, and then you win that big fish tournament, and you could take home. Hopefully this year it'll be about $2,000.
Yeah, and it's just one fish, guys. Just one fish.
Anybody can do it. It's a luck fish. So I think it's awesome, and I'm pumped to do it for sure.
Yeah, I am too. I took home some money last year, so I'm hoping to take home some again this year.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with winning some money for sure, or defraying the cost of traveling and having a good time. So, but the cool thing is like you can't get rid of the memories that you're making.
No.
And all these anglers that you're meeting and these different people that can help you evolve and be a better fisherman or a better person. We're all gonna look back one day and be like, damn, like where does this even happen? Like it all came out of nowhere. And I remember meeting you when you were a member of NE Bassin, and I think I almost helped you carry out your kayak that you bought at the Springfield
show. Yep.
I really didn't even know who you were until you said the name, and I'm like, oh, now I know the name because I'm the one doing all the damn standings on the website. So all the names are in my head, but sometimes I can't put a face until I meet the people, you know. So um, it's just funny how things work, and I think the kayak community is a very tight knit community, and I think it's only going to grow and get better for everybody.
Right.
So
Uh, top 5 anglers of all time. Can be anybody. Can be pro.
I'm
Can
sure no one's going to ask this question because I listen to this question every time you have one of these podcasts, and like Derek Brundle and Greg and all these other people you had on. Top five. I have to give it to KVD. Obviously, he's been a guy that I watched growing up my entire life, fishing at the highest level. I had an opportunity to meet him a few times at a couple of the shows that I was with. Again, when I was on the Nitro team, I think Edwin Evers has to be out there because maybe I'm being a little particular to Nitro staff because I met them. But definitely Edwin, and he's proven it. Uh, I think Paul Nick has definitely stepped up his game as a young
he has
angler
become one of my favorites.
and continue to grow. I'm trying to think like growing up. I know like Sean Grisby, he was always one of those old timers that just kept putting in the work and rolling with it. But I love that all these young kids are starting to be evolved, and because I think the biggest thing is that it's been a college sport over the last couple of years now, and these kids are kind of getting a head start into the professional world
Right.
um, of bass fishing. So um, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are very good anglers. I mean, I can't name the last one or two, but there's a lot of people out there who have definitely influenced whether myself or you, among many of us, just get out there and fish. Whether it's a technique or a particular rod or a particular line that they're using to help us catch more fish and put more fish in the boat, which in actuality is hopefully putting some more money in our pockets.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all a
Um,
confidence thing. If you see the guy catching on TV, and then you get out there and you're like, I'm going to do the same thing. I mean, it's all a confidence thing.
That's why there's things called sponsors. So when they show that crankbait they're catching them on or that spinnerbait, whatever it is, and they put it on there, guess what? Now it's helping that company because now all of us are going to go on and buy it, whether it's online
Yep.
or at the local tackle shop that have it, and then they're sold out within 3 weeks, and they got to wait for
look
more shipments
look
to
at
come.
look at the fire craw or whatever Z-Man chatterbait after the classic the past weekend. You can't
Oh,
find one of those, and if you do, they want like $100-$200 for the damn thing.
I couldn't even find one of those before the classic. Like they're already all gone.
Yep.
Like it's just crazy. And those guys at Z-Man, I know we didn't talk about sponsors yet, but those guys over at Z-Man are hands down phenomenal guys. I work with them on a regular basis on the level that we're at, and they're a huge sponsor of NE Bassin. And they offer an awesome discount code for all the directors, which is an incentive to come on board as a director. But we buy a lot of stuff and we give it away to the members just because we get such an awesome deal. And their products are phenomenal. You know, from their Ned rig all the way down to this chatterbait to all their soft plastics. There's a lot of stuff that definitely puts more fish in my boat for sure.
Yeah, the Project Z chatterbait, man. That's my go-to. I love a Project Z chatterbait.
They were the original chatterbait people, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they do. They definitely
They
do.
got on board on their professional level, and um, it's a very good bait for sure.
All right, man. I'm going to let you thank all your sponsors. I know you got a ton of them for yourself and for NE Bassin, so I'll let you thank all them. Thank any family, friends you want to thank. I want to thank you for coming on the show. I feel this was very informative about NE Bassin, and I hope it
Yeah.
brings some more members your way.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, Jess, for having us on here for sure. Talk about it. I know it's kind of been in the works of trying to get the schedules to pan out, and I'm glad it happened for sure. And I'm looking forward to watching the NEKF to grow this thing for sure. And we'll obviously work together for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving forward. But going from a sponsor standpoint, I want to thank Sublime Jerseys, that are our key jersey sponsor for all members and directors getting discounts. Kistler Rods, I've been on board with Trey, who's the owner for like the last 10 seasons, and hands down probably the best rod I've ever used, and it's the only rod that I will use. Um, they're a considerable backbone company. They're made in the USA. Awesome products. Rods are pricey, but nowadays everything is pricey. And if you want to use the right equipment to put more fish in the boat, they're definitely one of the key rods out there. Lou's Reels, I know they have rods too, but I use their reels on every setup that I have through Kistler. Hands down, great company, family oriented. I know they change hands a couple times as far as owners, but they know what they're doing because they keep growing and leading the entire country with their reels. New England Brewery is a new brewery we took on board. They're right like 20 minutes down from the street from my house. Thank God, their beer is phenomenal. So if anybody's ever in the Connecticut area, in the New Haven area, definitely stop by and check them out. Twice the spice. We have a bunch of spices we give away to people. X Zone Lures out of Canada. Awesome drop shot baits, swim baits, the rod glove. They protect your rods. Thayer's Marine, I want to thank those guys over there. Richie's is one of my close friends. I buy the boats off them. They hook all NE Bassin members up with a discount, whether you're a kayak member or you're a big boat member. I know Greg had an issue with his trolling motor a couple weeks ago, and Greg went down there from his kayak trolling motor, and they ended up hooking him up with stuff. So thanks to those guys, too. Swagger Tungsten, awesome tungsten baits, Trigger Happy Comfort Grips, Lure Net. They own about 20 different companies from Booyah Baits and War Eagle and all these spinnerbait deals, but a bunch of crankbaits. They own a bunch of companies. The Crazy Hitch Bait Company, Soft Plastic, Somatis Baits, Mayo's Hand Poured Baits. And I want to say lastly, thanks to Anthony's Ocean View, where we have our banquet every year and we have our cornhole tournament every year there. So it's been a great time there. They host weddings, banquet facility right on the water. So it's a great time. And hopefully this year, Jess, you can come down, man. Maybe we can have you as a guest speaker out there and come down and hang out. If you don't want to speak, then no problem. You come hang out, eat some good food, and drink some good refreshments.
Yeah, I mean,
and throw some
sounds like a plan.
cornhole bags, man. I know, Greg, we're going to do something with the Tight Lines Worldwide. They're one of our partners, obviously, and we're partners with the KBF as well as Candlewood Fishing Camp. I know that they're doing big things. We became partners with them for all middle school and high school kids. They do the whole camp. There's 3 different sessions on Candlewood Lake this summer. So we're teaming up with a bunch of partners, and I think this year's banquet and this year's fishing season is actually going to be epic. So I'm looking forward to everything. And again, thanks for everything you've done. And we'll obviously keep the relationship moving forward. Anything I can do for you, let me know. And I'm sure likewise.
Awesome, man. Absolutely. I look forward to it, and I hope you have a great season. I know I'll be talking to you a bunch.
I'll send you some pictures tomorrow after I catch some hogs out of my kayak
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I coach basketball, so we got the championship at 11. And then after that, I'm going fishing.
You mean they didn't cancel your whole state playoffs?
No, they haven't. I can't believe it. They've asked that we minimize the amount of attendees. That's what they've asked.
That's one thing, but they literally canceled everything in Connecticut.
Yeah.
All this, everything. And then I was just watching ESPN. They just canceled the whole March Madness deal. No men's or women's nothing.
Yeah, everything's getting canceled. I think only because it's the last game, it's the championship. I think that's the only reason they're allowed. They just get this one and done over with. If you get infected, sorry.
Well, good luck at the game, big dog, and obviously we'll be in touch, and hopefully I'll see you soon. But I appreciate everything you've done, man.
All right,
so,
have a great night, Jamie, and I'll be talking to you.
Too, thanks, Jess. Later, bud.
All right, guys, that was Jamie Verab from NE Bassin. I hope that episode was very informative about their club and how things work and signing up to be a member. I was a member a couple years ago. I had a lot of fun with them. I've grown and done my own thing, started my own organization. I still fish a event here and there with them. So, I mean, there's tons and tons of opportunities for you to fish with those guys, and now they've added an online series. Just like there's other online series, I mean, do a Google search. You can find all types of online series from around New England and across the country. I mean, if you're traveling somewhere, you can find an online tournament somewhere that you can fish. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Like I said, we're season starting, so we're going to start bringing in a lot of guests as tournaments are being won. We'll get those guys in here on Top Dogs, in the spotlight. We'll be getting those directors in here to talk about how things are going in their clubs. We're in the works with getting the KBF season started here in the Northeast, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. Tight lines, good times. See you next time. Thanks for the support.